made every other plug.
We're taking
Okay.
It's getting people to has already been in.
There you go.
Absolutely wonderful, Virginia Kennedy.
Welcome to our New York 19 Organizing Summit. These are all the groups that are in the room. So if you look at every single person in here, everybody represents a tremendous number of people who want to keep New York 19 blue, who want representation that actually cares about the community, cares about the citizens, and cares about using our tax dollars for we the people, right? Those are the people that we work on getting elected. So I hope you're all proud of yourselves, the work that you do, and just the fact that you're here on a Saturday, giving up your day to be here to figure out what more you can do to help. You need to all give yourselves a hand. And this is New York 19 right here. These are all the groups, and there's more of them now because this slide was taken at a point in time. These are all the groups who are working to support our candidates, our blue candidates, and especially to make sure that we get Congressman Riley back to Washington where we need him to be. Okay, so our major objectives, let's just run through them. It's not like we don't know what they are, but it's good to talk about them, right? Keeping New York 19 blue in 2026, flipping Congress in 2026. Yeah. All right, we want to organize early. We're building our team, meet lots of people today, talk to each other, find out how to connect and work together. We want to work smarter, not harder, right? So let me introduce our representative, Josh Riley.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, Congressman.
It's Josh. It's always Josh.
Josh, I want to say thank you so much for coming. I just want to tell folks a little bit about you.
Sure.
Okay.
Only the good stuff.
Only the good stuff, yeah. That's all there is, good stuff. Okay, as you know, as most of you know, Josh grew up just down the road in Broome County, where for generations, his family worked factory jobs in Endicott Johnson and IBM. He first ran for Congress in 2022 and very, very narrowly lost to Representative Mark Molinaro. But Josh didn't back down, got right back in the fight for a blue New York 19, and in 2024, he won that race. All the experts said he would lose. And you were all here to play a part of it, right? And you're here back again to do the same thing. Now Josh is in Congress. He serves on the Agriculture and Science and Technology Committee, fighting to rebuild our economy and put power back in the hands of working people. A really important thing to remember with May Day coming up on Friday. He's backing the Equality Act, banning stock trading in Congress, fighting to codify Roe, and for our health care. He's taking on the Trump administration. No more masked secret police, no more forever wars, no more tax breaks for those at the top, while everyone else whose money is being spent on all of this gets squeezed. He and his staff has also been working tirelessly to support constituents and community organizations that have been hurt by the Trump administration policies and actions. He's helping people, he's helping farmers, he's helping libraries and others get the grants and services that were promised to them by the government and due to them by law. He doesn't take corporate PAC money, never has, and never will. Okay, so without further ado, Congressman Meyer.
Thank you, Virginia.
Josh.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do I take that mic?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Virginia. Thank you, Caitlin. Where'd Caitlin go? I know a huge amount of work went into this. Thank you. Did you say this is the 4th time we've done this? I've been to all 4 of them, right? Yeah, I thought so. Good, and they get better and better every time. I know that because the first couple I came to, I was not in Congress, and now, I am, so that's better. So what I was thinking we could do today, I have about an hour to spend with you. Just like last year, I put together some slides and a presentation to kind of go over a couple things. Number one, want to talk to you about the politics of the district and give you sort of the lay of the land of the big fight we've got ahead of us. And then go through some of the policy issues I've been working on that kind of relate back to that. But the main thing I wanted to say coming here today and why it's so important for me to come to this event every year, I just want you all to know if there's one thing you hear me say today, I just want you to know how much I appreciate you. I am so grateful to have you all in this fight with me. And I'll show you some slides. It is a challenge being in this Congress at this moment, being in the minority. I will tell you, we're all friends here. I've known a lot of you for a long time, and I feel comfortable sharing this with friends. I get so homesick being away from my kids when I'm in Washington. But this fight is so important, and what we're doing both for the country and for our community is so important, and it has to be done. And I could not do it without you all. As I go through some of the politics of the district and sort of the fight that we're in, it'll be clear to you, hopefully. What's already clear to me is that everybody has a role to play in this, and the role you all play is so important. It's something I could not do on my own, and so I just want you to know above all else today how much I appreciate you. So does that sound okay? I'll flip through some slides, give you the politics. We'll talk about some policy stuff, and then I want to open it up and make sure, one thing, Virginia, when I came up and saw your group, same thing here. I know folks have questions. I want to make sure folks have a chance to ask questions. Ask me the toughest questions. Ask me the things that are on your mind, because I want to be able to have those conversations with you. So this is our district, 170 towns across 11 counties, 5 media markets, about a 4-hour drive from one end to the other. I think it's really important for folks. I actually had a committee member from Hillsdale come out to Ithaca yesterday to visit, and once he got there, he said, wow, I didn't realize how big and diverse this district is. He said, I had been driving for 2.5 hours, and I thought, am I there yet? And I was like, no, you actually have almost halfway still to go. The district, this is really important for folks to remember. This district is registered 1/3 Democrats, 1/3 Republicans, and 1/3 Independents. It's also, this is a fun fact, and we had CRS, the Congressional Research Service, look at this for us. We're the 16th most rural district in the whole country. Out of 435 districts, we're the 16th most rural. And you've seen what's happened with the Democratic Party in rural America over the last 30 years, so it might not surprise you to learn we're the second most rural district in the country that's represented by a Democrat. And if I'm lucky enough to go back to Congress for the next term, I will be the most rural Democrat in the country because the one guy ahead of us is retiring. These are the election results from 2024. We put this together to kind of show you, I think what this shows mostly is the partisan breakdown of the district. The darker the shade, the more the margin. So the population center in the district, the biggest population center is actually the lightest color, and what that tells you is that our biggest population center, the Triple Cities, is actually the swingiest vote. So the darker parts are more partisan. So this is interesting just in terms of adding up the numbers, but the way we tend to look at elections is more in terms of taking your baseline of partisanship and measuring how you have done relative to that baseline. And going back to this slide where we have 1/3 Democrats, 1/3 Republicans, and 1/3 Independents, if you can turn out every single one of your Democrats and have them like super fired up to go vote, you're gonna lose by 34 points. You have to win in this district. For us to win, you have to win over 1 out of every 4 non-Democratic voters, 1 out of every 4 Republicans and Independents. And so when we're looking at the elections, the way we measure our performance across the district is the generic Democrat, or in most elections you can look at the top of the ticket, whether that's Harris or the governor in midterms, and you see how far above or below that person did we perform. And in the last election, when we pulled this analysis together, what we found is these orange areas are actually where we overperformed the Democratic Party. And you'll see that they track with the reddest parts of the district. And the bluest areas are where we underperformed. And you'll see those track with the bluest parts of the district. Now, what I will say is we weren't able to code this based on the intensity of it. We overperformed by only a little tiny bit in the blue areas. We overperformed by a lot in the redder areas. And that is the type of political coalition that this district requires to win. One thing that I'll be able to say more about in a couple months when we get more research back, I do think that my slight underperformance in this part of the district, this is all Rensselaer, Columbia and Greene is all one media market. It's the Albany media market, where my opponent in the last election had very, very high name ID, and I was still introducing myself to voters. I shared this slide last time because it's one of the things I'm most proud of and makes the point that we just made there. Even after the election, there are models that get run that say, given the political environment we just saw, what should have happened in every race with a generic Democrat running against a generic Republican. And our race actually should have gone Republican by 2.2 points. We won it by 2.2 points. And that means we did something special here to differentiate ourselves from the top of the ticket in a really tough environment. And by the way, there were only a handful of races in 2024 because it was such a tough year for Democrats. There were only a handful of races across the entire country where Democrats flipped seats that they were actually supposed to lose. And I share that with you, and I say I'm proud of it because that takes a huge amount of effort from a really, really good team, and that's all of you. That's like going into the Super Bowl with everybody betting against you, the odds being against you, even after the game saying you should have lost, but you won it. And that's because of the work that we all did together. And I want to go back something I said toward the top, which is this is a big, massive effort across 170 towns. And everybody has their roles to play. One of the things I've been trying to do, and I'll show you a little bit of this in my first year in Congress, and I'll explain more in detail why once I get to it, but I've been trying to spend a lot of time in working class, rural areas of this district where people really feel neglected and left behind by our politics. Places where, I don't know if people are Democrats, Republicans, or independents, but I know that they need to be heard. That's really important. It's also really, really important that in our bluest parts of this district, we are out engaging with voters, talking to voters, and making sure those voters are heard too. I can't be in all 170 towns at the same time, and so it's so important to have this team out knocking on these doors, making these phone calls as the election comes up. And I will say, this number, so the doors knocked. We actually knocked on more doors, as I understand it, than any red to blue district in the entire country last year. And think about how cool that is in a rural district like this. I mean, we were competing against folks in Long Island and Los Angeles. And we got the Western Catskills, and we're knocking on doors and doing better than everybody. So here's the other thing I want you all to hear that's really important. Some of you have heard me say this before. One of the sentiments I hear the most in this moment is how scared, angry, frustrated folks are. I share that. I'm scared and angry and frustrated about a lot of what's happening in the country right now. And the question I get a lot from folks is, what can we do about it? What more can we do? What can we do about it, right? The good news is that we, all of us in this room, in this congressional district, we are uniquely positioned to actually be able to do something about it. There are 435 congressional districts across the whole country, and ours, as I'm about to show you, is one of only a handful that are truly competitive and truly targeted. So you could live in a very red district or a very blue district, and frankly, like the outcome of that election is predetermined. Our district is literally 50 or 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, right? It is a quintessential swing district. And the stakes are so high because these are the margins. And I will tell you, I am reminded every week that I go down to Washington what these margins mean. We just had a war powers vote a couple weeks ago. I'm going to talk to you about the war. We lost by one vote. One vote. So we have to flip back the House, and this district is the path to do it. I want to address something. I know a lot of folks are really bullish about these midterms. We're seeing special election results that are really encouraging. I'm not here to drop cold water on that at all, but I do want us to appreciate how big of a fight and how big of a challenge we have here. Nobody is to take anything for granted. Nobody is to see the special election results and think this is going to be easy, because it's not. In fact, in a lot of ways, it's going to be even harder because of some of those trends. And here's why. Number one, the Republican Party right now has a massive, massive, massive cash advantage over the Democrats, and we're seeing that in our district. They've been running ads against me already, and it's April, for weeks. They've been running ads. Donald Trump has just reported it's now $325 million campaign war chest, and the Republicans have 7 times more money than us. This is the way you communicate with voters. It's the way a lot of folks get out to organize. So we're up against that. This, I think, is a reality check that we've just got as Democrats. I think sometimes we need some tough love with each other, and we've just got to be real honest about each other. What I've been hearing a lot is, oh, Trump's become so unpopular, it's going to be easy to win. That always needs to be paired with the data, and these are just empirical data showing that the Democratic Party today is actually less popular than Donald Trump. So it is not enough, and I don't think it's ever been enough, for us to simply be a party that's against Trump and to run around saying Trump bad. That is not going to cut it. It's not, especially in a district like this. We need to be for something. So that's part of the environment. This I'll go through just really quickly. This was our race last year. It was the most competitive race in the country. It was literally projected as a 50-50 tie. Going into the last couple days, over $50 million was spent on it. It was the most expensive House race in the country. You all remember we even had Elon Musk came here and spent a whole bunch of money against us. So it's no wonder we are going to be targeted. This is the battleground. This is the place where control of the House is going to be decided. And I say that, I just think that's so great. Y'all are here on a Saturday morning because you want to make the world better and you want to do something about the moment we're in, and you have a chance to do it because you happen to live in the battleground for control of the House. And we know it's the battleground because the Democrats have put me on their frontline program and the Republicans announced, back in March, I'd been in office for a minute, that they were coming after me, and I said, bring it on. And this is the most recent, really important news. This is another thing I really want to emphasize. Donald Trump, a couple weeks ago, do we have this slide? Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, February 4th, whenever that was, Donald Trump, had one of his nighttime tantrums on social media where he endorsed who we think is going to be my opponent. I'll get to that in a minute. My likely opponent, but also was attacking me. He referred to me as a true radical left extremist, which, I don't know, guys. I don't know, Emily. I don't know. What would you say? I don't know. Emily says, go. I made this slide especially for you because I was like, this will give me cred with Emily Adams. So you know who else it gave me cred with was my wife. She said, Josh, this is such a badge of honor. And she was like, I don't know. She's so busy. We've got the kids and she's got her career. And she follows everything I do. And she's the most supportive human being in the world. But when Donald Trump started attacking me on social media like this, she was like, now I know you're doing a good job. She's like, you must be doing great. So Donald Trump comes in, endorses my opponent, which is fine. But then here's the thing that's important about this. A couple of weeks later, Donald Trump named us, I don't want to say me, he named all of us, as one of only 6 Democratic House incumbents in the entire country who he's going to target this fall. One of 6. So every one of these blue dots represents a Democrat in Congress. And those 6, the 6 of us are the folks who he's targeting. And you know what I said and he's got this $325 million war chest. You know what I said when I learned about this? Bring it on, man. Bring it on. We are ready for this fight, are we not? We are ready for this fight. So think about how cool that is. Everybody who's been itching for a fight, itching to do something big in this moment. Now, not only are you in a congressional district where you get to determine who's going to control the House, you also get to fight directly against Donald Trump because he picked that fight with us. Like, let's go. Let's go, right? So I'm just going to briefly mention, I don't want to talk too much about the other side of the ticket, but we learned yesterday, this is also new news, it looks like there's going to be a Republican primary on the other side in this race. So these guys, it's a guy named Alex Portelli and then this guy, Pete Oberacker, and these guys are going to get to fight for the next couple months over who's more MAGA. So get your popcorn. It's going to be super fun to watch. One of the things you'll learn about Peter Oberacker if he makes it through the primary, it's pretty simple. He's taken a bunch of money from the utility industry, corporate PAC checks, and his voting record is a disaster for consumers, and it's great for the utility companies. He's voted multiple times to raise rates. There was even one vote where the question was, should we stop the utility companies from predatory fees and turnoffs? And the obvious answer to that is yes, of course we should. They shouldn't be making the profits they're making. And he voted how the utility companies told him to vote. The last corporate PAC check he took from NYSEG was, I think it was 1 month or 2 months before they filed their latest rate hike.
Where is he voting, Josh?
Oh, sorry, yeah, great question. He's a state senator in his third term. The other thing you're gonna wanna know about him, I don't know if we have this video, I'll show it to you later, we'll send it around later. We have this video of somebody filming him on a cell phone and basically asked him to pledge allegiance to Donald Trump while he's holding like a red hat, and he did it. So I don't pledge allegiance to politicians or political parties. I've pledged my allegiance to my family and to you, but we have him pledging his allegiance to Donald Trump, so that's gonna be fun. I was not impressed with the launch of his campaign. I normally wouldn't make a big deal out of this, but literally the very first thing out of his mouth during his campaign, when he launched his campaign, was a lie. Literally the very first sentence of his campaign is that he was born in upstate New York. He was born in Merrick, Long Island. And like, that's fine, man. Like you could, like I'm sure there's good people on Long Island. Like it's totally fine to be from Long Island. Just don't lie. Just don't lie about it. But the very first thing, he actually still has on his social media, upstate New York, born and raised, and either he's lying or he thinks Long Island is upstate New York, and that's not good either. I think that's worse. I hope I get to debate him. And then this is actually serious, and I'll just touch on it very briefly. Have you all seen this news about the Young Republicans, the text chain? So these are some of the most vile, despicable people in the Republican Party. And they are the people that he has surrounded himself with to launch and run his campaign. And we actually have reason to believe that they are still working for the folks who are running his campaign. They have said some of the most anti-Semitic and homophobic and racist and most vile things, and that's who he has surrounded himself with. Okay. I have this slide because you guys have known me long enough. I can't do a presentation without talking about my family or telling stories about my kids. But I added this here just because I was thinking this job is crazy because every week it feels like you're getting a year's worth of new information and current events. There's a lot to stay up on. I represent, like I said, a third Democrats, a third Republicans, a third independents. And so it's not just you have all these issues you're learning about, but you're also learning a wide range of perspectives on all of those issues. And so you need something to keep you grounded and to make sure you've got your North Star. And for me, that's always two things. One, it's upstate New York, and it's all of you. It's the folks I grew up with, the community that raised me. I got into this because I love this community so much. And it's also my family. So I try as much as I possibly can to bring them around with me to campaign events and this was actually super fun. You see Mateo covering his ears. They cut wood for us at Maple Fest the other day with this like old 1920s saw that was made in Norwich. The boys, we don't have this picture. the boys were doing shots of sugar, like maple, straight maple sugar. And obviously Mama wasn't there. This was like boys' day out. And the kids came home, and man, it was not good. It was not good. So anyway, and then the other thing I wanted to share with you. So you go into politics, I'm just a guy. Like I don't see myself as a politician. I'm just a guy. I grew up on Bertzel Street. So you go into politics, and people start writing things about you, and you get all the ads and things like this. And you get a lot of press, and a lot of the press is very critical and so forth. But the best press that I ever got, somebody asked me to say, what's the best coverage you got? I don't know how many of you saw this, but on election morning of last year, when this was seen as the race that was going to decide control of the House, the most expensive race in the country, the New York Times, of all places, had a big article profiling our race that morning, and it referred to me as a dorky dad that morning, and I was like, that is number one, like the greatest compliment I've ever gotten. And that was the moment I knew we were going to win the election too. So there's that. So let's talk a little bit about policy. How am I doing on time, guys? I want to make sure I leave plenty of time for questions. I'm doing okay? Okay. So that's the politics. What the district looks like, what it takes to win, just how tough the terrain is here, what we're up against in terms of the money and the resources and the establishment support that's coming in. So why it all matters, there's a lot of reasons. Number one is we need to take back control of the House. But I see how control of the House manifests itself in the day-to-day lives of people every single day. And so some of the biggest fights we've had to fight over the last year and a half, one of them was H.R. 1. They call it the One Big Beautiful Bill. I have different names for it. This is devastating for upstate New York and rural communities. It's taking $1 trillion out of the public health system, and it is giving it to tax breaks for folks who don't need it. If you look at the income distribution on this bill, you see the bottom 10% of our neighbors are worse off. The middle 80% see no change, and the top 10% get a big tax break. 40% of the kids in this district are on Medicaid. Half the babies, 70% of the seniors in assisted living. And money is being taken from them, I would say, to balance the budget they're balancing the budget on the backs of the working class and folks who can least afford it, but they're not even balancing the budget. They added $4 trillion to the budget. I'll show you one. This was one of the, I try to be a workhorse, not a show horse. I don't do like the celebrity cable news circuit sort of thing, but one exception where I got picked up was in this fight, which may not be clicking, which is okay. Did folks see, I had a chance to give a floor speech on this and talk about what this bill meant for our community. I got yelled at for cursing on the floor of the House, and because I was so angry about it. And I remember at the time the presiding officer started smashing his hammer and saying, you can't be vulgar. And I said, the only thing that's vulgar is what's in this bill. So this has been a big fight, and we ended up losing this vote by just a slim majority. So winning back the House matters in terms of restoring access to healthcare in our rural communities. I think it's also really important that we're not just talking about the places where we're playing defense and we're going to have to mitigate the damage that's been caused, but also laying the foundation for progress going forward. I just introduced, and I'm really proud of this one, the Care Over Profits Act. This came about through remember when the government shut down over the ACA tax credits? So I was part of a bipartisan group of about 20, 25 folks to try to come up with a bipartisan solution to get the tax credits extended. That didn't happen, but one of the things it did was in the course of those conversations, I heard one of my freshman Republican colleagues, we got beer and pizza and sat around and said, how do we fix this in a bipartisan way? And in the course of the conversation, one of my freshman Republican colleagues said, I think a big part of the problem here is the insurance companies are making too much money, and not enough money is going toward care. And I was like, okay, Bertie. I agree, that is a huge problem. I was like, I don't know if you know what you just said. No, so I pulled him aside afterwards and I said, I agree with you. Like, healthcare should be about care for people, not profits for these big corporations. Let's see if we can do something together on it. So we just introduced a bipartisan bill that is, it gets technical, but what it does is it changes the medical loss ratio. That's something that under the Affordable Care Act says, let's call it 80% of the money you pay for your premiums. The 80% of it has to go to your care and not to what used to be the case, private jets and CEO bonuses and advertising and political spending. We want to make sure that money is going. So that's what the ACA said, was it's 80 to 85%. So I pulled aside my colleague and I said, let's dial that up higher. So our bill would put it at 90 or 95%. My hope is someday we can dial it up even higher and make our healthcare system not about profits, but about people's care and taking care of our community. And then I'm trying this assault on rural healthcare. I've visited every single one of our rural hospitals. I spend a lot of time with our nurses. This is one of the things that really keeps me up at night, because the situation is pretty dire as it is right now. But as these cuts start going into effect, it is going to get a lot worse. I'm not here to sugarcoat it. These cuts it is hard to overstate how damaging these cuts are. And so I'm looking for every single possible thing I can do to mitigate the damage. It includes this bipartisan bill. It includes, I have a bipartisan bill to put money back into rural hospitals. Most of my colleagues on this bill, by the way, are rural Southern Republicans, because they know what they did to their communities, but they wouldn't stand up to Donald Trump and say no. I'm also using the federal budget process to try to invest in our rural healthcare. This is one of many examples. We just brought over $1 million to Johnson City to build a new nursing school, which is going to train a whole bunch of nurses to stay in our community. And these are nurses who are going to come in from everywhere from SUNY Sullivan, the Triple Cities, because we have a massive nursing shortage. Emily, this one's for you too. So one of the other fights, and what I'm trying to do here is just give you a smattering of examples of fights I've taken on. So during the government shutdown last year, which happened because we were trying to get the ACA credits extended, I went out to just about every food pantry and food bank that I could get to, everywhere from Lansing to Coxsackie and everywhere in between. Devastating stories of folks who were trying to keep the heat on, trying to get the food they needed, and just trying to make ends meet. And I remember at one point, and again, I'll share this because we're all friends, I remember at one point just being like, I was literally losing sleep over the shutdown because, you know, people are really struggling. And I took my boys to Home Depot one night. It's kind of like we'll go because they have these shopping carts where you can fit both boys and they both have steering wheels. And so we'll go and just like literally run up and down the aisles in Home Depot like a normal dad. And I was there one night and one of the guys came up to me who was working stocking the shelves, and he said, you know, I picked up extra shifts because it's tough. The utility bills are high. I've been on SNAP before. I've needed help before. And he said, stick with this fight. Stick with this fight, because nobody in this country should have to choose between food on the table or healthcare. And that is the choice they're trying to put us to, so that they can provide tax breaks to people who don't need it on Wall Street. And it just hearing from him really gave me the courage of the conviction that we were doing the right thing in the moment. And one of so then, you know, every time you have one of these issues and it's a big problem that you're trying to solve, I always try to think really creatively. What are the levers we can pull and the buttons we can push to try to do something about it? And in that case, I got together with Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to lead the New York delegation as part of a legal effort to get to force the Trump administration to tap into a $9 billion contingency fund that was available to make sure the food pantries could hold on. And we actually won that fight and got that money issued, and it was enough to allow us to get through to the end of the shutdown. This is an issue I hear about a lot, and you guys may have questions. I want to make sure I'm answering them. But look, when Joe Biden was president, and I thought he was not doing a good job with the border and immigration, I said so, and I stood up to him. Donald Trump now is doing a terrible job with immigration, and I'm standing up to him too. And that's a campaign promise I made, that I would stand up to anyone from any party who's doing wrong by our community. And you cannot see the images we saw with our own eyes of what's happened around the country, especially in Minnesota, and think that there's not something that's gone terribly, terribly wrong. I mean, these are masked paramilitary folks going into and terrorizing communities. And it is not some distant thing that's happening in a different state halfway across the country. I sat down with a group from labor in Sullivan County or Ulster County a couple of months ago, and you talk to folks, we have neighbors and friends and business owners in our community who have been here for decades and who have done everything anybody's asked of them. They've followed the law, they pay their taxes, they've contributed to our culture and our economy, and they are terrified. They're terrified. And that cannot be allowed to happen. It cannot be allowed to happen in the situation under the Biden administration, I believe, where there was essentially no enforcement, and it cannot be allowed to happen what's happening now, where communities are being terrorized. And so over the last 2 months, when the budget came through and the question was, should ICE get additional funding, I voted no the first time, I voted no the second time, I voted no the third time, and we're going to hold the line on this. We are going to hold the line on this until the masks come off, these people get judicial warrants, and by the way, I was on the articles of impeachment to get rid of Kristi Noem. Good riddance. This is another big issue that I'm getting a lot of questions from folks. I have voted now twice for war powers resolution. When you vote for a war powers resolution, what it means you're saying is you're voting against the war unless Congress authorizes it. And my view on this is pretty simple. I think it is a moral issue. We should not be sending American sons and daughters into a forever war in the Middle East. Again, have we learned nothing from the last 20 years? But beyond that, upstate New Yorkers cannot afford this. Cannot afford it. I was just out at a farm in Greenville a couple weeks ago, and they walked me through the budget where a 48% spike in fertilizer prices, what that means for that small family farm. I don't know if they're going to make it. About 50% of the nitrogen we're getting for fertilizers coming through the Strait of Hormuz. And it's not like last year was any better. All the potash, the potassium we're getting is coming from Canada. So Trump goes in, slaps tariffs on Canada, goes to war in Iran. You know who's paying the price for it? It's small family farmers across upstate New York. Paying $6 for diesel now. You got families who, it's almost the end of the school year, I know, and all you want to do is take a family vacation. And now you don't know if you can do it because gas is over $4 a gallon, and it's probably just going up. And I will tell you, this war is costing us, as far as we can tell, they haven't been transparent with us, so these are our best guess. It's costing us billions of dollars a day. We should not be sending hundreds of billions of dollars to a war to change regimes abroad. We should be investing it here at home to rebuild our own community, our schools, our hospitals, our roads, and our bridges. So those are some of the national fights. How am I doing on time? Oh, I got to go fast? Okay, so I'll go through these quick. So those are some of the national fights. I just want to highlight, those are like the big picture national things that are in the news that everybody's paying attention to every day. I just want you to know there's so many things that are happening that sort of fly below the radar because they're not as sensational, but they're so important locally. Trump tried to get rid of Job Corps. That would have been devastating for our folks in Delaware, Sullivan, Otsego counties. I led the fight, including in the courts, to save Job Corps, and we did it. And they're now not only still open, they're growing and thriving. Trump tried to kill The manufacturing extension partnership would have been devastating for folks like BAE and Raymond and folks across the district who are creating good blue-collar jobs of the future. Trump tried to cut the entire budget for it. I led the fight against it. We got the money not only restored, but increased. Local issues that I share this story. I'll go quickly, but usually I think we're in the situation we're in as a country because there's a lot of folks who rightly believe the government doesn't care about them or pay attention to their issues. That's why we are where we are. Donald Trump is a symptom of a structural problem in our democracy. I grew up in a neighborhood where a lot of folks voted for Donald Trump and voted for me. I grew up in a household where folks voted for Donald Trump and voted for me. I'll never be the person who shows up and lectures people based on how they voted. Those decisions are often, not always, but often rooted in a sense that this whole thing doesn't work for me. We've seen our small family farms gobbled up by big consolidation from big ag monopolies that have all the lobbyists and the corporate PACs and buy off all the politicians. And next thing you know, a spike in fertilizer prices is going to drive a family farm in Greenville out of business. A neighborhood like the one that I grew up in, a surrounding area that lost 20,000 manufacturing jobs overnight because the politicians got us into terrible trade deals that made Wall Street rich, while leading to a 50% child poverty rate in the city of Binghamton and having the opioid epidemic rip through. So there are people across our region, in particular across the country, who are hurting. And they see a government and a politics that is not only not helping them, but is actually making them hurt even more. And what they see is an economy that's rigged against them because prices are going up, profits are going up, and they see a politics that's rigged against them because that's who the politicians are paying attention to. That's been my theory of the case since I got into this. And how do you fix it? You can address the symptom. You can address the symptom, and you do. Like, you have to address the symptom, but you also got to get to the underlying root cause, which is making a government that is responsive to the real day-to-day needs of people. And so one of my top priorities over the last year has been saving Exit 114 in Wurtsboro, which sounds insane given all of the massive things that are happening around the world, including a war in Iran. But this is so important because this little town in Wurtsboro, if Exit 114 closes, the entire town, every small business is going to close. People's livelihoods are at stake with this. So I've spent a whole bunch of time there. I've led the effort. It now looks like we're going to know more in November. We're going to save Exit 114, keep it open so that this community can survive. And I had a lot of people say to me, Josh, what are you doing obsessing over this exit in this tiny little town in Sullivan County? Why are you obsessed with this? And I said, I'm obsessed with it because those people in that community are obsessed with it, and they need to know that somebody's listening to them and caring. And one of the most best moments I've had since I got into office was in this article. They said it meant a lot to us that Josh just showed up in our community and talked to us and asked, because we've never had a member of Congress do that. We've got to show up respectfully and listen in those communities if we're going to get out of the mess we're in. Similar story up in Grafton with the Dunham. I have a lot of stuff I would share with you guys about just like time I've been spending in our rural communities. One of the things I'm most proud of, I get out to like just about every public school I possibly can to talk to the kids, especially around STEM opportunities. When I'm in DC, I try to spend all my time with folks from the district who are visiting. We could do a whole like day on the utility companies, which I would love to do at some point. And then these are the last two I'll just show you very quickly. As a freshman in the minority, we've actually had a huge amount of success bringing federal money directly back home. During the FY25 budget, I pitched 15 projects to the appropriators. I got 14 of those funded. I'm now pitching 20. And we've brought money home for everything from one of the really cool ones that I'm excited about this year is we're trying to get a new barn at the county fair in Columbia County. We've done a lot with our rural hospitals here. We're trying to get a new rail trail in Lansing, the nursing school I mentioned to you. And then the last thing I'll say, and then I'll open it up because I'm being told I'm way over time. The most important part of this job is constituent services. And we've built in it. It took us a minute, I'll admit it took us a minute to get the operation up and running. But we've built a really best-in-class constituent service operation that is opening and closing lots of cases and getting out to really every nook and cranny of the district. It's hard in a district that's this rural. Not everybody can come to Binghamton or to Catskill to get help. So we do mobile office hours and get folks out everywhere possible. So let me close and make sure I can take questions. But I want to end where I started, which is just really, guys, like, I love doing this work with you. I'm so excited for this fight that's ahead of us. I really mean this. The fact that Donald Trump came in here and said this is one of 6 that he's targeting. I love that fight is being brought to us, and I'm just so grateful to all of you, all the organizers and everybody for organizing today and for being in this fight with us. So thank you all. Oh.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Josh.
Yeah.
That was awesome. So we have about a half hour for questions. Some of the questions that you put down here were answered as Josh was talking. So if I don't ask your question, it's just because Josh has already touched on the subject, okay? So if you put your name on the card and I announce your name, if you could just stand for a minute. If you didn't put your name on, I'll assume that you don't want me to call you out. But if you didn't put your name on the card and would like to be recognized so Josh knows who asked the question, when I ask the question, just stand up and say who you are, okay? So first question comes from Teresa Winchester from Otsego County. You did touch on you emphasized we need to win this district. A lot of people have fears that the more desperate Donald Trump gets, the more he'll pull out all the stops and potentially impact our free and fair elections. What is your plan and the plan of congressional Democrats to fight off nefarious efforts for the November election?
Yeah, such a great question. Thank you, Teresa. Appreciate it. So, I'll tell you honestly, if you had asked me this question about a year and a half ago, I might not have. I would say, yeah, it's interesting. It's a good question. I don't know that I would have taken it as a very serious possibility. And then we saw Trump send the National Guard into Los Angeles. We saw what happened in Minneapolis. And it's not hard to see that as a test run for, invoking the Insurrection Act or a whole host of other things. So this is something I take seriously. I know the party takes seriously, and civic groups across the country are taking seriously. I actually just brought currently the whip, Catherine Clark. If we win the House, she'll be the majority leader. I actually brought her to, where were we? Trumansburg a couple weeks ago. And she got this question. And what I will do is I will find her answer and get it to you all, because she laid out there's a program that's currently in place that involves election operations experts, legal experts, cybersecurity and national security experts, and they have convened a big team that is running through test cases for various scenarios, building both not just a voter protection operation in the sense that we've historically thought about it, because this moment demands something more. They're building a voter protection operation that is fit for the moment, and also doing a lot of scenario planning around it. So I don't want to misstate the details of it, but I do want to tell you that's happening, and I'll get you some more information about it, including ways to potentially get involved. Did I answer your question?
That's a better answer than when I asked you in Cooperstown.
Yeah. Good. You did ask me in Cooperstown. I knew. Okay. Good. So I promised you when you asked me in Cooperstown, I promised you if next time you asked me the question, I would have done my homework and I'd have an answer for you. So I did my homework. I still don't have the actual answer for you, but I can tell you I did my homework, which is half the battle.
Okay, so I'm going to combine 2 questions here. You kind of addressed it a couple minutes ago, healthcare, when you talked about that 90% number, pushing that up even further. But just to make it explicit, the last time we spoke, this is from Judith in Delco, and I'm combining that with a question from Donna Latella in Otsego County. The last time we spoke, you hadn't had a chance to look into the New York Health Act. And have you now? And are you looking at that as an act that you would support? And that goes with Donna's question. She lived in England for a time where there was universal health care, public supported health care. Are we going to move to that place? So these are both healthcare related questions.
Yeah, so I'll say on the state issues, I'm less in the weeds and the details on it. But let me tell you first, like how I view this issue, and then some of the specifics. So I think a lot of you know this about me. After I got out of law school, I got my start, my first 3 years of law school. I went to the South and I did civil rights work for kids who were living in poverty. And were having a really hard time getting access to the healthcare services they needed. I had one client who was in the Panhandle, little kid named Jesse, and he had a tumor on his spine, and his family could not get him in to get the care, the tests and the care that he needed because he lived in rural Southern poverty. And meanwhile, you would have kids a zip code over who are the sons and daughter of faculty at Florida State who could get in and get whatever care they needed the same day down the street. And I moved to Florida to take that case because I believe with my heart and soul that healthcare in this country, it should be a civil right, it should be universal, it should not bankrupt a single family, it should also not be driving corporate profits. I mean, this is the same fight I'm taking on right now with the utility companies. Being able to turn on the heat and the lights, it should be, it is a necessity. It is not something that should be lining the pockets of a bunch of folks sitting in a boardroom halfway around the world in Spain. And yet that's what we're seeing. It's the same corporate greed and political corruption in our healthcare system. So I think it should be universal. I think it should be affordable. And I don't think it should be a driver of family bankruptcies and corporate profits. So then you get into the details, and there's a whole bunch of different policy proposals out there. I will say two things. Number one, I do want us thinking about progress and thinking about the future and what that looks like to make it more affordable. Like this bipartisan bill, just think about that for a second. As a Democrat in the minority, right, Ziggy? As a Democrat in the minority, I was able to get a bipartisan bill done that is going to make the corporate profits of the healthcare company less and the care that you're getting more. So that's the direction we need to be moving in. One of the big issues in that civil rights case was that the Medicaid system was so badly underfunded that providers wouldn't be able to participate in the system. And so if you had private insurance, in a lot of those cases, you could get in and see a doctor quickly, but kids on Medicaid just couldn't. So I want us to make progress in that direction. I will tell you, every time this question comes up, particularly around single payer and various things, and there's a bunch of different proposals, one of the questions that I always have and will always have on these, and I just, for better or worse, I pay attention to the details. I represent a lot of trades and a lot of unions who have worked really, really hard, spent a lot of political capital and a lot of effort to get health policies that they really, really like. And so one of the questions I always have in these conversations is what specifically would this do, for example, for the machinists in Sydney. So that's part of the analysis with it. But I also think it's really important that we not lose sight of the moment that we're in right now. I think it's great to talk about what progress looks like. I think it's great to talk about what our principles are and how we envision this. But we can't lose sight of the fact that in this moment, we're not on offense. We are trying to fight back against drastic and devastating cuts to our community. I want to talk about going forward, but where we are right now, my job day to day, I feel like, is fighting to stand our ground against these cuts that are taking us way backwards.
Okay, all right, thank you, Josh, for that. Speaking of offense, defense, this question doesn't have a name on it, but it's a good question. The billions that are going to ICE that have just been passed by the Republicans on the budget reconciliation, not passed, but in the Senate. And this is going to ICE without guardrails, which is what the Democrats have been standing strong against. But if this gets passed, is there still any path to fight ICE returning, because they've just backed up a little, to the aggressive tactics? They'll have a new infusion of cash, et cetera. Is there any way to still fight if they get that money?
Yeah, no, this is a good question. So let me just, for folks, the kind of little lay of the land of where this funding is, because we're in the 68th day of a DHS shutdown. And let me be really clear, we are in this DHS shutdown because I'm usually, I try not to be overly partisan about things. The Republicans refuse to negotiate in good faith over an issue that the American people are up in arms about, which is the conduct of ICE. And they won't even bring themselves to the table to talk about it. And I know that because votes were called at 2 o'clock in the morning 2 Thursdays ago to deal with this issue. The Senate, controlled by Republicans, sent us a bill that was unanimous to reopen the rest of DHS while we hash out our disagreements with ICE. And the House Republicans refused to bring that unanimous bill to the floor. That is how dug in they are on this. I have made my position clear. They don't earn my vote without reforms. The masks have to come off. You need judicial warrants. And there needs to be substantial reform. So how this is going to play out, I don't know. But I think what the Republicans are trying to do is give us a bill that could be bipartisan, that would fund the rest of DHS. So this is cybersecurity and FEMA and so forth. And then they refuse to negotiate with us about reforms to ICE, so they're trying to jam through a partisan reconciliation bill to do that. If they do that, yes, there are things we can do. I don't think the American people give themselves enough credit, and you all, especially as activists in this room, deserve more credit. After what happened in Minneapolis, the reason the Trump administration has retreated and become less aggressive, it's not because of laws that were passed or magic wands that were waved. It was because the American people showed up and said, we will not tolerate this. It was that. It was the American people doing that. And so yes, there's always something you can do. I'll tell you, in my job, my job is to go down to the floor and vote yes or no. And if they bring a bill to the floor to fund ICE, while letting folks continue to wear masks and knock down doors without warrants, I'm a no vote.
Sorry, we only have room, sorry. Okay, we only have time for 2 more questions. So I'm going to take each one briefly. There's 4 questions in here that have to do with Iran, Israel, Palestine. Okay. So I'm going to kind of put a rope around all of them. Yeah. You made very clear where you were on this war with Iran. Yeah. People have concerns with Israel's part in it, and also Israel's ongoing decimation of Palestinians, and the trip that you made, which you talked about at our meeting when you came to see our group. So that's kind of, I'm just throwing a rope around the questions that have to do with those things. And then there's one more question after that, and I'm going to just say it right now. I'll remind you of it. 3 legislative priorities. What are you putting on the top when you go back to Congress?
Oh, great. Okay, that one's, okay, we can do both of these. I'm so glad that this first one came up because I wanted to make sure I had a chance to talk about this. I won't talk more about the situation in Iran because I think, it's one of the areas on all of this where I've actually had a chance to vote. My voting record speaks for itself. I'm against this war. I think, and I said this to your group, Virginia, I've gotten a lot of questions from a lot of folks about the trip that I took to Israel last summer. And, we're always, in any job, you're always learning. And I think one of the things I would have done differently is better communicated to all of you and to all of my constituents what I was hoping to get out of that trip and why I was going. I am devastated by what we have seen happening in the Middle East over the last couple of years. That includes October 7th. It includes the response to October 7th. I also think that historically Israel has been a really important ally to us for geopolitical reasons, for historical reasons. And I think there are a lot of people all over the country, a lot of people all over the world who really love America and value alliances with America and really, really disagree with Donald Trump. And I think a lot of folks I represent, and my view is you can support the Israeli people while being very much against its government and what they are doing. So this was an issue that I'd been hearing about a lot from a lot of constituents on all sides of it, people who care very, very deeply on all sides of the issue. And I felt like it was important for me to do my job well, to try to go and see for myself and learn for myself as much as I could. One of the things we found as a general matter for a lot of issues, but in particular around this issue, is the way the algorithms online work. They're designed to sow division and to pit people against each other. In any issue, whether it's this or any issue, I always want to try to find the common ground. And so my view was that if I went and spent a few days over there on the ground, that I would be able to learn for myself and have a better perspective on it. And I feel like I got that. One of the conditions for Democrats going on that trip, and Pete Aguilar, who's a Democrat in leadership in California, was on the trip with me, along with Eugene Vindman and a couple other folks. One of the conditions was that we would be able to speak directly, unfiltered, with the head of the United Nations food distribution operation. No filters, no screens, nothing, and we would be able to ask him specifically the questions. And I went on that trip in part because I wanted to hear directly from whoever was in charge, why am I turning on the TV every day and seeing kids starving? Why is that happening? One of the other conditions for going on the trip was being able to go into the West Bank and sit down with the head, the Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority, which we were able to do. Because one of the biggest questions I have for this war is who governs Gaza and the West Bank at this point. It should not be Israel. It should not be Israel. The Palestinian people deserve to have their own safe, secure state that they govern. Israel shouldn't be running it. Donald Trump sure as hell should not be running it. And Hamas should not be running the West Bank and Gaza. We've seen the horror that they have inflicted, not only on their own people, but on the Israelis. Iran should not be running it. So that begs the question, who should be running it? And so one of the things I wanted to see for myself and learn is the Palestinian Authority capable of stepping into this void and running the situation in Gaza? I will tell you, I left that meeting with no confidence that they are even remotely capable of doing that right now. So that's a really important thing to learn and a question to ask. I will tell you also, one of the things I learned and took away from my time, particularly with the United Nations folks, is that they should be in charge of humanitarian distribution in Gaza at that time and beyond. That they were in a lot of ways being hindered from doing their jobs. There were some operational things they were doing that I had a lot of questions about, but generally speaking, the United Nations Food Distribution Program is best in class and capable of making sure that kids are being fed. So when I came back home, one of the first things I did was helped lead an effort to try to force the State Department to reopen humanitarian visas so that kids from Gaza who need medical attention could come to the United States and get it. Because as a country, let's take care of kids. I also worked to include in the Farm Bill that's about to come to the floor new authorizations to restore international food aid programs, which I think that's actually a really important thing if you care about humanitarian crises happening around the world. But I was able to work on that through the context of the Farm Bill and bring a bunch of Republicans along with me because it's a market for our farmers, right? So I was able to come home and better understand what a lot of those challenges were. I do think, and I really appreciate having the chance to talk about it. I could talk about it a lot longer because I learned a lot. But I do think one of the things I learned in terms of this job is I could have done a much, much better job communicating with all of you, like what my goals were, what my questions were, why I was going, and what I was hoping to learn from it. Hopefully this is helpful to you to some extent around that.
Okay, so Josh has to go.
Oh, do you want me to? Yeah.
So we're going to just give him one more minute to finish up. We're going to put you back
Yeah.
in Congress.
Yeah.
So what are your 3 priorities when that happens?
So the number one thing. So I'm actually going to say 4 things because one's not legislative. The main thing is always constituent services. It's showing up in every community, 170 towns across the district, and making sure folks in their community are getting what they need from our office. I was just out at Ellenville Regional Hospital because of the rural health challenges, and we're working really hard in this next budget to deliver a new CT scanner because that community needs it. Up here, actually, at Bassett, in the last budget, we're bringing home a whole bunch of money for state-of-the-art equipment here. It's going to help recruit folks. Patients here deserve to have that care. So constituent services, number 1. Number 2, our rural communities, our agriculture economy is really, really struggling right now, Sue. Right now, our ag economy and our farmers are really, really struggling. We have an opportunity to pass a bipartisan farm bill that is going to provide really important support for our dairy farmers and our apple growers in particular. I'm on the Science and Technology Committee, and I've used that as a place to do work on advanced manufacturing and manufacturing workforce issues. I don't know if folks just saw, I gave a speech in that committee congratulating the folks at Unison in Norwich because of their role in the Artemis II mission. And so rebuilding American manufacturing, bringing good union jobs back home so that folks can get into the middle class and the country is getting the things it needs. I mentioned the ag economy. And then the number one thing that I've been spending most of my time on, the utility bills are too goddamn high. And it is the same story of corporate greed and political corruption that has hurt upstate New York since I was a little kid. You have NYSEG, for example. Who here's on NYSEG? Who's on Central Hudson? Who's on National Grid? Okay. All of them are owned by foreign corporations. Why the hell are we allowing foreign corporations to own American utility companies? That is insane. I have a bill that would ban it. Return American utility companies to America. And it's insane because these foreign corporations, don't tell me some foreign corporation in Spain or Britain or Canada cares at all about our neighbors in upstate New York. They see us as line items on a spreadsheet. They care about their profits, and every single action they take is designed to take money out of your pockets and line theirs. And I'll give you one example. You look at what happened with NYSEG. Last year, February 28th of 2025, NYSEG decides to send a $450 million dividend to its corporate overlords in Spain on February 28th, 2025. They turn around in June of 2025, go to the Public Service Commission and demand a $500 million rate hike. That's a 30 to 35% increase on the delivery charges. How out of touch do you got to be to see folks struggling around here and decide you're going to send a $450 million dividend to Spain, turn around 4 months later, come back to this community, and demand a $500 million rate hike? I'm the only elected official, as far as I know, in NYSEG service territory who doesn't take their corporate PAC money. The only one. Democrat or Republican, I'm the only one who has turned down their corporate PAC money. And they know they can't buy me. So I show up as a party in the rate case to fight against it, and I have the opportunity to ask the CEO of NYSEG under oath questions. The night before I go to ask the CEO questions, they send a lawyer to serve me with a letter saying that if I don't stop criticizing Iberdrola and NYSEG, that they're going to sue me. They can't buy me because I don't take their corporate PAC money, so they think they're going to threaten me. So I went there the next day and I told them, I am not, under any circumstances, backing down from this fight because I've got public school teachers in Ithaca who are taking care of our kids every day, picking up second jobs because they can't afford the utility bills. I've got farms in Delaware County that are facing high fertilizer prices, high diesel prices, and they're about to literally lose the farm. I've got a small business on Washington Ave that can't make payroll. This is the fight that we got into Congress to fight. I'm not going to take your money, and I'm not going to back down for your threats. And so I asked the CEO on that day, on February 28th, when you sat in that boardroom and you decided to send a $450 million dividend to Spain, money that was sitting right there, on February 28th, you cut a check to your corporate overlords in Spain on February 28th. Did you know when you signed your name to that check, did you know in that moment that you were going to turn around 4 months later and demanded that we foot the bill? And she was under oath, so she had to say yes. And she did. That is why I got into politics, to put an end to that stuff. I grew up, you guys have heard the story a million times to the point where I get made fun of for sharing it, but I grew up reading the papers and seeing the plants close down and seeing my community struggle, seeing folks sitting down at the kitchen table and wondering, how are we going to pay for the school clothes if mom or dad loses their job because the pink slips are coming? I had friends on the block who died because of the opioid epidemic. When you take all the good jobs out of a community, the opioid epidemic rips through. The child poverty rate in the city of Binghamton is pushing 50%. It's one of the highest in the country. You got little kids I spent a lot of time with. It's innocent kids growing up in an economy where the middle class was hollowed out, the community was hollowed out, the jobs were shipped overseas. That's not that little kid's fault. And meanwhile, you've got these corporations bragging. Iberdrola is bragging about the profits it's making off of us. It's the same thing as when NAFTA got done and all the jobs were shipped overseas and Wall Street was popping champagne bottles and bragging about how much money they were making while folks in my community, in my neighborhood, were hurting. And it was the same thing. The money's going overseas. The jobs are going overseas. And upstate New York gets hollowed out by the corruption in the politics and the greed in the economy. And I say the corruption in the politics because not all that money's going overseas. A lot of it is. You know where the rest of it's going? It's going in the pockets of the politicians who are writing the rules and allowing it to happen. So when Iberdrola takes $450 million out of our community and then has the audacity to show up 4 months later and tell the regulators that they're going broke and they need you to pay 30% more for your NYSEG bills, I am not going to have it. I'm just not going to have it. So my bill would ban foreign corporations from owning our utility companies. We're going to take away these executive bonuses until they start focusing on affordability instead of profitability. And if they want to take me to court to fight against these rate hikes, I will see them there. I will see them in court. And I actually just sued the New York State regulators to stop them from continuing these rate hikes. So I'm sorry, I get real passionate about this. And you asked me for my priorities, and that is a big one. Yeah, it's just, man, these people piss me off.
Knock on doors. This is really good stuff for us.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I've had a lot of folks who are like, this is one thing. Can I? Sorry, Maddie. This is one thing. This is the last thing I say. I promise. I think this is actually also important because like, some things are not partisan politics. In fact, I find that a lot of what I do on a day-to-day basis is not partisan politics. I don't think anything I just said should be Democratic, Republican, or Independent. It's just about fighting for the working class. Right? And we as Democrats have got to fight that fight in a real way. Because right now, what I see across this district, and I think is happening across the country, people are seeing two political parties. And most people aren't on a Saturday afternoon, Saturday morning, most people aren't at an event like this. You guys are special. Most people right now are picking up their second shift at Home Depot, or they're taking their kids to T-ball, or they're just trying to survive day to day. And they're not, and I say that because they're not paying attention to politics as closely as you are. And God bless you all for paying attention to it as closely as you are. But a lot of people can't do that. And then when it comes time for elections and they have to make a decision between the Democrats or the Republicans, they're looking at the choices in front of them, and what they're seeing is a Republican Party that is obsessed with Donald Trump. So obsessed with the guy, they won't criticize him, they won't get out of line with him. He'll say things that we all know are wrong. And it's not some kid saying wrong things, it's the President of the United States. And they won't criticize him, they won't go after him. It's almost become like a cult, some parts of the party, because they are so obsessed with Donald Trump. But then those same folks are looking at the Democratic Party, and too often, what they're seeing is a party that's also obsessed with Donald Trump. They're seeing a Democratic Party whose top agenda seems to be anti-Donald Trump. And they look at this party, one party obsessed with red MAGA hats and Donald Trump, and one party obsessed with, imprison Donald Trump. Who's obsessed about the fact that they can't pay the utility bill? Where is that in our politics? Where is that in our politics? And we have right now in this moment, I'm telling you, and it's the same thing. You talk to small farmers who got crushed with the tariffs, or getting crushed with this war in Iran, who have the most to lose from Trump's current immigration policies. They're looking for someone who's obsessed with those day-to-day issues and their bottom line and the cost of living and making ends meet and having a shot at the middle class. And we, in this moment, have an opportunity to demonstrate to folks across upstate New York and across the country that we are not going to be obsessed with the obsessions of the day. We are going to be obsessed with making your life better. And if we can do that going forward, if we had done that for the last 30 or 40 years, we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in today. And we can avoid being in it going forward. So I'm so grateful to be in this fight with you all. I love you all so much. Sorry I talked a little bit too much and kept us. Let's go win an election. Let's go win an election.
Okay. Thank you to Josh.